My name is Robert Panas, and I'm the project lead on the Livermore Lightfield Directing Array project. So I'll be presenting on technology we've been developing, which started off as a 3D display, but which we now think can solve one of the major hurdles for self-driving cars. Self-driving cars have an awareness issue. LIDAR is generally seen as the key to solving this issue because it combines the best of both worlds in terms of radar-like depth perception combined with camera-like 2D image generation, which allows cars to build up a full 3D map of their environment as shown on the right-hand side, so they can identify objects around them. But LIDAR has a beam steering problem. Present LIDAR units are large, they're expensive, they have low refresh rate, only in a few tens of hertz, typically 10 to 20 hertz maximum, poor adaptability to different environmental conditions, and weather dependency. We've developed a beam steering on a chip technology which we think can change this paradigm. Now, LIDAR advances are key to a self-driving car rollout, which we see in the scale of maturity is about 100 million cars per year, each one running on somewhere on the scale of about a half dozen to a dozen LIDAR units. Now, beam steering is the key hurdle to solve for LIDAR, and we can solve that beam steering with our new chip technology. That allows us to produce smaller, cheaper, faster, and more reliable beam steering capabilities via MEMS development, MEMS improvements, and precision operation. We see this as an enabling technology to help car companies adapt low-cost, high-precision imaging into their self-driving vehicles so they can achieve total autonomy for their cars. So how do we do this? To get the required performance, we realized we had to switch the technology basis underlying the LIDAR unit. Rather than drawing on macroscopic mirrors and spinning systems, we drew on the semiconductor industry, the micro devices printed with the same technology that's used to create CPUs. This printing technology has had the benefit of decades and billions of dollars put into it in order to reach maturity for being able to produce at high volume and very low cost, very fine micron scale features in high performance materials. This can be adapted to produce very small mechanical devices known as MEMS devices, micro electromechanical systems. These likewise then benefit from the size of the chip, the low cost, and the high speed of the very small devices, but these 2.5D fabrication capabilities end up limiting the designs for MEMS. And what I mean by 2.5D is present lithography techniques are able to put down layers, etch them, create a 2D structure that's extruded upwards, that's the 2.5D, and then repeat that process. That ends up resulting in fairly complicated MEMS designs when you attempt to do full tip tilt and potentially piston motion for mirrors, as shown on the right-hand side. These are very high-performance devices, but the requirement of how to fabricate them leaves a number of extra features in there that are liable to resonances and poor dynamic behavior at high speeds. And that's exactly where we need to be in order to get the LIDAR unit working well. We see the Lightfield Directing Array technology developed at the lab here as the key to bringing the MEMS up to their full potential because we've figured out how to innovate in the manufacturing domain. This allows us to bring up the speed range product of the mirrors, the combination of its speed times its mechanical range, about 10 to 100-fold faster than existing state-of-the-art systems, and do that all with closed-loop control of the mirrors during their operation. This is, as I've mentioned, a design and fabrication innovation solution here. We have focused on figuring out how to create a new way to build MEMS devices so that we could achieve the designs that had performance beyond the state-of-the-art. This required 7 years of experience in figuring out how to hybridize microfabrication, existing MEMS development processes, with new micro-additive manufacturing capabilities. This also allowed us to now capture the IP in the design that becomes possible through these new manufacturing capabilities. So the knowledge equity captured in this work is first of all a manufacturing innovation, as I previously mentioned. This is a hybrid microfabrication combining micro-additive manufacturing with microfabrication. Most MEMS designs use microfab, which is etching and creation of features in silicon. The new innovation here is to add in recent advances in additive manufacturing on the micron scale, bringing those in and linking them in so they are able to be built into the microfabricated silicon structures. This allows us to create new kinds of linkages, new kinds of flexures and geometry within the design that lets us precisely constrain the mirrors and the actuators within the design so that we're able to achieve very high dynamic performance with no under-constrained degrees of freedom. And that is critical for having high performance in the dynamic realm when we want to do very fast steering and very precise motion. This additive manufacturing capability lets us achieve new geometry and use new kinds of materials that were not previously possible. Through this process, we've been able to capture IP on the fabrication techniques, the design of the device, as well as the electronics driving it. I guess I should note in closing is this innovation has allowed us to move the challenges from limitations on the design front to achieving the best possible design and shifting those challenges to the manufacturing front. Only recently has the additive manufacturing capability come online to make this possible, which is why we've recently brought online the fabrication of the devices and shown that it is indeed possible to make and operate these systems. So what does this get for us? This sort of advanced mirror design allows us to consider a whole new range of possibilities for next generation LIDAR units. So these next gen MEMS chips, these micro mirror arrays, have tip-tilt piston control, tip-tilt piston, large ranges of motion, upwards of 40 to 80 degree optical range, high speeds on the scale of 20 to 25 microseconds response time, closed loop control via integrated sensing so they're able to reject disturbances coupled into the MEMS device and always point precisely where you want. Also do so consistently over the lifetime of the device and operate consistently between devices due to the use of internal sensing to confirm where the mirrors are pointing and ensure that that is always where they stay pointing when commanded as such. There are also arrayables. You see an image in the upper right here to cover large apertures should we want to carry out multiple beam steering operations at once or operate with a single large aperture to try to collect more light. So what does this do for next-gen MEMS LIDAR units? It does a number of things which all fall under this general umbrella of providing us substantially improved data even in rough conditions. This improved MEMS steering system lets us provide more stable imaging, operate in multiple weather conditions, focus down on areas of interest to capture the data in higher resolution in these particular areas of value, capture data at longer ranges, and finally operate in multiple modes so that we can switch between generating 2D images of the surrounding environment or focusing in and tracking particular vehicles or objects of interest during those few milliseconds during a potential crash to know very precisely the speed and the acceleration of those other objects so that we can avoid potentially fatal collisions. The way that this advanced mirror device works to improve the LIDAR is by drawing on its integrated sensing and high speed to cancel out vehicle motions, accelerations, shaking in order to capture crystal clear images. This is the stability aspect. For the all-weather aspect, we have the ability to operate multiple wavelengths simultaneously in the laser unit because we're operating a number of different independent optical setups within the LIDAR unit. Each mirror is able to independently steer a beam. This lets us consider using beams that are best for rain, fog, clear skies, vegetation, roads, operating in the conditions that are optimal for any given scenario instead of trying to just find the one beam that works best or works moderately for all of them. We have the possibility to reconsider how this LIDAR system can operate to find an optimum that, in any given condition. The focusability comes from the use of the mirrors as active steerable units rather than simply resonant scanning units. If the LIDAR unit, I guess, is able to see a particular object of interest ahead of it, it's able to steer the mirrors back to that particular location, focus in on there to capture more information. This is not something that's possible with present systems today that do a spinning operation or that do a raster scan-like operation. Longer range can be generated by similar dwelling on a particular area of interest, say down the road a ways. You can capture several data points at the same location, use that to infer longer distances, to capture measurements that are several fold further down, possibly down to 200 to 300 meters down the road. This lets us capture high quality data only in the areas we need and then use quick scans to the sides or to areas off the road or to the road just below to not waste data points there, to free up computational bandwidth, to respond quicker and to capture better data where it's valuable. So the business model for this, for the micromirror device is to sell beam steering chips to LIDAR companies, not for us to create the LIDAR operation, but rather for us to link in this beam steering technology with the folks who are developing the LIDAR units themselves. Now there's a number of companies, as you can see on the right, who are focused on mechanical beam steering. We see these as possible customers for an advanced beam steering chip, and we'd be interested to link up with that technology and find a way to help accelerate these mechanical beam steering technology-based LIDAR units. Now, the second stage, we're focused on licensing the technology, the MEMS technology, for integration into a whole LIDAR unit to reduce cost and size and increase performance. Finally, we see a number of other spin-out markets that have a lower size than the automotive industry, but that could also benefit from precision beam steering. This includes laser manufacturing, precision imaging capabilities, and finally compact laser comms for drone-to-drone communications that allow us to draw on the precision pointing capability of the MEMS chip in order to ensure that we can get direct laser lock between distant targets. What we want to bring to market is first a design kit that will allow customers and potential users, designers, to understand the value of the Lightfield directing array MEMS chip. This will be a 7-mirror array with a controller of the size and scale shown in the upper right-hand side. This would be a technology, a box that could be integrated into prototypes to determine how well we're able to improve the designs for our OEM customers' LIDAR units. We then want to shift to a production chip, a first-generation chip that's focused on reducing the size of the packaging and integrating this chip into the OEM customers' products. Finally, we'd be focused on product differentiation, adapting our particular design to the different needs of our customers for going to larger range, higher speed. These are all adjustable by changing the way we 3D print the internal structure of the MEMS device. Same device, same integrated sensing, but we can shift between high precision, small range, larger range, lower precision if needed, and also larger arrays of different coatings or pitches on the mirrors. Now, why would we want to focus on MEMS steering systems? There's a number of different companies, a number of different technologies being pushed right now to try to find the next-gen LIDAR unit beyond these large macro-scale scanning mirrors. These automotive LIDAR units of the future need to be low cost, compact, and reliable. So let's first look at present LIDAR. These systems are able to produce high precision measurements, but they end up being very large and very expensive. Present systems are somewhere in the scale of $10,000 to $70,000, and they're about the size, again, of a coffee can or larger, meaning they have to be mounted very visibly on the top of the car. Now, next-gen LIDAR units, things like flash LIDAR, optical phased array, or MEMS devices, all seek to solve that size and cost issue by miniaturizing the device and using a number of different technical methods to do so. First of all, flash LIDAR focuses on sending out a single pulse, bouncing that pulse off of the entire image in front, not just one point, but off the entire 2D area in front of the camera, and then sending that pulse back to an array of sensors. So not operating point by point, but operating on an array of measurement of time of flight sensors. While this works great for capturing images very quickly, unfortunately what this does is causes issues with the quality of the return image, producing poor stability for the image since the flash LIDAR is not able to adapt to the vehicle shaking or frame changing of the sensor itself. So you end up having objects shifted around during the image, or between images here. It's not able to focus in on areas of interest. It's not able to adapt to different environmental conditions because it's stuck with a single wavelength, single pulse. It's optimized around that particular optical setup. And finally, it has poor resolution because it's limited to only a finite number of pixels across and not able to zoom in between those. That ends up producing low resolution images that are often fairly grainy due to the high noise in the return pulse. The second technology that we'll look at is optical phased array. This works by using electronic steering of the laser beam to delay pulse emanations from a grid of emitters to steer the beam purely through phase interaction, so purely through interference effects. This works very well for doing very high-speed steering, but ends up having the problem of producing grainy images because that downstream beam has a number of side lobes. The main beam that's emitted works exactly as you'd expect. It's sent out in the direction due to the interference effect, but so are a number of other side lobes that also go out at integer multiples of that interference phase wrap distance, meaning that you're not just sampling the direction you want, but you're also sampling a number of other directions, a number of other spots nearby, leading to an actual measurement area that's substantially larger than the point generated by a single reflective mirror. This produces relatively low-resolution images and suffers additionally from the issue of having relatively high noise in the return because your sensor is not able to slew around at the same speed in the same way, and so it has to capture all of the light coming back into it, which means it's pulling in a lot of the other unwanted light while it's trying to capture the reflection off the optical phased array emitted beam. This also is locked in a particular wavelength, meaning that it has difficulty operating in multiple weather conditions. MEMS devices allow us to draw on the benefits of scanned mirrors, which use a reflective optic off a high-quality beam sent to a single point, scanned through the environment of interest, but do so with a much smaller size package and much lower cost, which is why we think that MEMS LIDAR holds a significant potential to meet all of the criteria for automotive LIDAR. So where do we stand against other MEMS chips? As you can see on the right-hand side, existing MEMS devices are either very fast and small range or large range and typically fairly slow. We've been able to achieve a speed, a range, and a precision boost over existing technologies, moving to the upper right-hand corner of the chart. This is through the improved design of the flexures, the linkages hidden behind the mirror that's critically enabled by our new manufacturing process. Now, the team that's looking to develop this is myself as the technical lead. Robert Tillman is our business lead here, helping us understand how to link this technology back into the market, and we have several other core team members at the lab. I want to walk through the product and development funding roadmap to show where we're at and where we're looking to go with this technology. So we received internal R&D funding within the lab to the scale of about $1 million to figure out the early design science and to develop the components leading up to about 2015. This was completed and showed us that the design was indeed possible. More recently, we received government sponsorship on the scale of about $3 million, which is nearly complete now as we clear on to the end of that funding. That's allowed us to confirm that the integrated sensing capability as well as the full control and assembly of the array demonstration. We're now about to spool up on a next round scale-up of government sponsorship that allows us to complete the small array operation that allows us to produce these design kit prototypes and meet the full specs of the full potential specifications that we've been targeting for some time with these designs, which is 40 to 50 kilohertz bandwidth, closed loop operations, 7 mirrors operating at about 5 to 10 degrees mechanical, which is about a 20 to 40 degree optical field of view. Now, if we want to pull this out to produce production chips, we're going to need to extract this from the lab and shift to a focus on revamping this manufacturing process outside of the laboratory. This is where we'd be looking to now extract the technology from the lab and move on out with a commercial partner to produce some manufacturing capability. This is not what the lab can do as an FFRDC, so we'll be reaching with the end of this next round of funding the limits of the R&D capability at the laboratory and looking to see how we can move this into the commercial domain. Thank you for your time, and for more information, please contact the Livermore Innovations and Partnerships Office. Thank you.